Hello, and welcome to Susquehanna University's Financial Aid 101 webinar. We are so pleased you could join us. Now I'd like to introduce you to Erin Wolf, our Director of Student Financial Services and a graduate of Susquehanna University.
Thank you and welcome again to our webinar participants. I know we have both students and parents joining us. Since many of you are still dependents of your parents and they probably will be the ones completing much of your financial aid paperwork, I will direct most of my comments to the parent audience. So let's begin. In this webinar tonight, we will talk about the following things: who pays for college and how, what financial aid is, including the types and sources of financial aid, the cost elements of attending college, and the contribution your family will be expected to make. Also, we'll present some tips for filing the FAFSA, briefly discuss the composition of your financial aid award and other student aid programs available from the federal government, and review some common questions and misconceptions about the financial aid process.
Who pays for college and how?
Meeting college costs is a partnership that involves several parties. At the heart of the partnership is your family, including the student, parent or parents, and any other relatives who may be willing to help out. The state and federal government may provide assistance to your family in the form of grants or loans. The college or university your student chooses to attend may offer scholarships or campus employment opportunities. And private businesses or organizations may have scholarships available for your student to access also. Although financing your student's education is a partnership, the primary responsibility for financing your student's education rests with your family. So here are some things that your student can do to help pay for his or her college costs. Find and apply for local scholarships from organizations in your community. Use accumulated savings. Get a summer job and save the money earned to help your family meet college costs. Use future income to leverage the cost of education by taking out student loans that your student won't have to pay back until later. And plan to graduate on time and in 4 years. We always say that time is money, both in additional tuition costs and lost income.
What is financial aid?
Financial aid consists of the funds provided to your family to help pay for post-secondary education. As noted before, these funds will come primarily from your family's financial resources, as well as outside resources such as the government, the institution you attend, and other private businesses and organizations. It's important to point out that not all families qualify for aid, and there is no guarantee that you will get any free money to pay for higher education. Basically, there are two categories of financial aid. One, need-based financial aid versus non-need-based aid. So first, let's look at what we call financial need. Need-based aid is intended to help make up the difference between what your family can afford to pay and what the college costs. It is the difference between the cost of attendance and the expected family contribution, both of which we'll discuss in a moment. Financial need is calculated and awarded on the basis of data you provide on the FAFSA. Your financial need determines how much aid your family may receive from various sources. And it is also important to note that a college may not be able to offer enough aid to meet your full financial need. Non-need-based aid, on the other hand, is awarded on the basis of a student's ability, talent, or unique characteristics, such as academic achievement, athletic ability, although not applicable at a Division III school like Susquehanna, musical talent, or ethnic heritage. I like to think about need-based and non-need-based financial aid as being broken into different types of buckets. One bucket is gift aid. Gift aid is money that does not have to be paid back and is typically awarded in one of two ways. Number one, scholarships, which are awarded on the basis of merit, skill, or characteristics. And two, grants, which are awarded on the basis of financial need, as calculated using forms such as the FAFSA. Your family will not need to repay monies received from scholarships or grants. Here at Susquehanna, the best way to be considered, and really the only way upfront to be considered for a merit scholarship, is through the admission application. It's very important that your student apply, as that is the process for which your student will be considered. We then will look at the FAFSA application to determine grant-based eligibility after that is received. The other bucket is self-help aid. These include educational loans and student employment. So let's take a look at self-help aid. Education loans are monies that you or your student may borrow to pay for college costs and other expenses. Repayment of these loans usually begins after your student has completed his or her education. You can borrow only what is really needed up to the cost of attendance, or opt not to borrow any money at all. In any case, you should look at loans as an investment in your student's future. So why should a loan be considered an investment? Well, from our data that we've calculated, we do see that the average college graduate earns about $1 million more in his or her lifetime than a high school graduate. So getting back to other types of self-help aid, work study or student employment allows your student to earn money to pay back his or her educational costs and or personal expenses while in college. Your student may choose whether or not to work and choose the number of hours to work throughout a semester. Federal work study funds included in your student's financial aid award will guarantee that he or she is eligible to earn a certain amount of funding once enrolled. Your student will receive these funds via a biweekly paycheck. These earnings will not be credited directly to their student account. Many parents worry that their student will not have time to work on campus. But please keep in mind that most colleges will limit the number of hours your student can work in a week. And unlike high school, he or she will have many more discretionary hours to work during the day, evenings, and weekends. Also, studies show that students who work in college do better academically. And we personally have witnessed how students are able to improve their time management skills by working on campus. Here's a final word about self-help aid. Your student is not required to take out student loans, nor take a campus job if offered. However, you should understand that typically the college will not replace those funds with additional grant monies if your student declines employment. If you and your student decide to decline a campus job or forgo student loans, your family will have to find other resources to cover your tuition and educational expenses.
What else factors into calculating a family's financial need?
There are two elements used to calculate need: the cost of attendance and the expected family contribution. So let's look at what each of those entails. The cost of attendance consists of direct costs and indirect costs. Direct costs are items like tuition, fees, room, and board. Indirect costs are those things you will spend money on but may not be billed for, like transportation, books, personal expenses, etc. Colleges combine direct and indirect costs into the overall cost of attendance or student budget. It is important to note that your cost of attendance will vary from college to college. Your expected family contribution, or EFC, as we all like to call it, is the amount your family can reasonably expect to contribute for education. Your EFC will be the same regardless of what college or university your student attends. And as noted before, the EFC is calculated by a federal formula that uses the data you supply on the free application for federal student aid, also known as the FAFSA. The EFC is then broken down into two components. One being the parent contribution, if your student is your dependent, and two, the student contribution. In reality, the EFC is not the amount of money, the amount the family is required to pay, and is rarely the amount that a family actually pays. So allow me to elaborate a bit more on how the EFC is actually calculated. The federal government and college financial aid officers apply formulas to the FAFSA data to analyze your family's financial circumstances. Your family's ability to pay will be based primarily upon income and assets. Other factors considered are the number of family members, how many children will be in college, and the age of the elder parent. Although no formula is perfect, the FAFSA is designed to treat families fairly and equitably. The formula will assume that your family will meet its contribution through a combination of savings, current income, and borrowing. Most colleges also assume this. In most instances, the information you provide on the FAFSA will be used to calculate your expected family contribution and is the number colleges will use to determine your family's eligibility for need-based financial aid. The bulk of the expected family contribution will come from your income. There is an asset protection allowance against the age of the older parent. As you can see on this slide, students can expect to pay 20% from the student assets, while 50% will come from income if earnings are more than $6,400. Parents can expect to use 6% of their assets annually towards their contribution.
What is the FAFSA?
The free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, is the single application that establishes your student's eligibility for federal, state, institutional grants, work study, and loans. The FAFSA can be accessed at www.fafsa.gov. The first step in filing your FAFSA is to acquire your FSA ID. If you have not done so, please apply for your FSA ID and password now from the U.S. Department of Education at studentaid.ed.gov/FSAID. Please pay careful attention to the instructions as this is an area where we commonly see mistakes occur. Remember that both the parent and the student need an FSA ID, as these will be your electronic signature on the FAFSA. And for those of you who go on to apply for student loans, you will also need this information to proceed to those steps later on. It is very important that you remember your FSA IDs, keep them in a safe place, and create a folder specific to your student and his or her year in college. You will want to account for the information when needed. Keep in mind that you will need to refile the FAFSA each year your student is enrolled in college. You will use the same FSA ID for renewal FAFSA. And as I said, you will also use the FSA ID to apply for student loans and parent loans, and even access the National Student Loan Data System. So take time now to get yourself organized. Your next step will be to check the requirements and deadlines for each school to which you are applying. Remember, it is really important to apply on time. Because the federal government changed the timeline for filing FAFSAs this year, many schools have adjusted their schedules in response. Please note, Susquehanna's priority deadline is December 1st. You will notice several handouts are available on the control panel for your reference. An information sheet about the early FAFSA and Susquehanna's financial aid application checklist for new students is available for you. Please be careful to select the correct FAFSA application when filing. The date should correspond to the year you need the financial aid, not the current calendar year. For example, if your student is a senior and plans to begin college next fall, you will want to choose the 2017-2018 version. Here's a screenshot of the FAFSA website and which version you should select. You should plan to file your FAFSA electronically, which allows you to complete, submit, and track your FAFSA application. You should not submit the form via postal mail. To save yourself time and effort, I encourage you to use the IRS data retrieval tool. It will transfer your income tax data directly from the IRS onto the FAFSA and improve accuracy. If you are eligible to use the IRS data retrieval tool and choose to do so, you will be transferred from the online FAFSA to the IRS website, which will then guide you through the transfer of your tax information. When you're done, you'll be sent back to the FAFSA. This is a screenshot of what you would see when you're at this point in the FAFSA application. We also have a handout about the IRS data retrieval tool uploaded for your reference. Be sure to provide code numbers for all of the colleges you want to receive your financial aid information. You may list up to 10. Susquehanna's FAFSA code is 003369. Remember, since you are using last year's tax information, there is no need to wait and file your FAFSA. Do it now. Participation is voluntary but encouraged, and many colleges will collect your tax information to finalize your need-based financial aid award. Some families will be asked to complete the IRS data retrieval due to a process called federal verification. Not everyone can use the IRS data retrieval tool. If you filed an amended return, have no Social Security number on the FAFSA, and/or if the student or parent is married filing separately, you will not be able to use it. You will not need to update your FAFSA after your 2016 income taxes are complete. Financial aid decisions for the 2017-18 academic year will be based only on 2015 income. Now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about the most common FAFSA errors we see applicants make. Hopefully this information will help you avoid some of the same mistakes. Be sure to enter your legal information correctly. Be certain the name you enter on the form matches the name on your Social Security card. And enter the correct Social Security number. This is especially important when students and parents apply for the FSA ID that they will use to sign the FAFSA. A mistake on either one will delay processing of the FAFSA application. Reporting parent marital status can also be confusing. If your family has a non-traditional parental situation, check out the student aid website at studentaid.ed.gov to help you figure out who will be considered the parent or parents for FAFSA filing purposes. Reporting household size and the number of family members in college are two other areas where mistakes can occur. Sometimes parents forget to include themselves or the student in that number. This number can also include other people, not children, if they live with and receive more than half of their support from the parent and will continue to do so until the end of June 2018. The number of dependents in college should include the student filing the FAFSA, as well as any other family members who will be enrolled at least half-time during the 2017-18 academic year. Reporting income and tax information incorrectly can result in you receiving an inaccurate estimated family contribution number when the FAFSA is processed. The IRS data retrieval tool helps mitigate those errors because it links the individual's IRS tax forms to the FAFSA and automatically fills in the tax information. Frequent errors are reporting the parent information in the student section reporting the amount of taxes paid incorrectly, or failing to report untaxed income. Finally, please remember to sign the FAFSA. Both the student and parent need to sign the FAFSA using the FSA IDs for each. So you've completed and submitted the FAFSA. Now you're probably wondering what happens. Once you've submitted the FAFSA, it goes to a large processing center that handles millions of forms each year. In approximately 1 week, you will receive an email from the processor called the Student Aid Report, or SAR. The SAR summarizes the data you submitted on your FAFSA. Please review the SAR carefully and follow the directions for making and submitting corrections. If any data is missing, it will be noted on your SAR, and be sure to submit corrections or required information quickly to avoid processing delays. When you receive your SAR, you will find your family's expected family contribution in the upper right corner of the report. The EFC is your family's calculated expected contribution to college. The EFC and supporting data are transmitted electronically to the colleges that you have listed and state scholarship agencies. If there is an asterisk next to your EFC, it means that your application has been randomly selected for federal verification. Additional data will be required to finalize the aid awards. Families often assume that the amount that they will be expected to contribute will be the same for all schools, and this may not be the case. The actual amount you are expected to contribute may vary for a number of reasons. The college admission policy and aid policies, the amount of aid available at each school, and special circumstances. Each school will have its own process for dealing with changes in income due to unemployment and/or other circumstances that may impact your family. Your financial aid award from Susquehanna or other schools is likely to be a combination of scholarship or grant aid, loans, and campus employment. When you compare aid awards, look beyond what the school indicates will be your payment. Some colleges may package a PLUS loan as part of a financial aid award, and others will not. You will want to carefully evaluate how much assistance you're offered through that grant and scholarship, or in other words, that gift aid that I had talked about earlier, versus student and parent loans that you will need to repay, and certainly employment. There are many types of federal student aid programs for which you may qualify. Listed here are just some of the examples of the federal programs that could be included on your financial aid award. I will elaborate further on some of the more common ones, such as Pell grants, subsidized and unsubsidized federal direct loans, and PLUS loans in our common questions section. Also, I encourage you to visit studentaid.gov for more complete information on each of these programs.
Let's look at some of the most common questions our student financial services staff receive, and hopefully dispel many of the misconceptions students and parents may have about financial aid. What is a PLUS loan?
The PLUS loan allows credit-worthy parents to borrow up to the cost of attendance minus any financial aid the student receives. Unlike student educational loans, the PLUS loan typically goes into repayment 60 days after disbursement, although there is an option allowing parents to request a deferment while their student is in college. The PLUS loan is a great option for families looking to spread out college costs over a 10-year period. You must file a FAFSA if you wish to take a PLUS loan, and the current interest rate for this academic year that we're currently in is 6.31%. And as a reminder to my families who are considering a PLUS loan, I always encourage those of you who may be considering deferment to please pay your interest while your student is enrolled in school. It will save you a lot of money in the long run.
What is a federal direct loan?
The federal direct loan program allows students access to loans to finance their education and does not require a credit check. First-year students are able to borrow up to $5,500. Sophomores can borrow $6,500, and juniors and seniors are able to borrow $7,500 each. Note that you must file a FAFSA to take advantage of a federal direct loan.
What is the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized federal direct loan?
With a subsidized loan, students who demonstrate financial need are eligible to borrow federal loan funds and have the interest subsidized while they're in college. This means that the federal government pays the interest on their loan until they graduate, and after graduation, interest begins to accrue. The repayment period is typically 10 years, and the current subsidized federal direct interest rate is 3.76%. Unsubsidized federal direct loans are available to all students, regardless of the family's financial circumstances, and the interest does accrue while the student is enrolled at least half-time. The current interest rate for unsubsidized federal direct loans is 3.76%, and repayment terms are the same as the subsidized federal direct loan. Of course, paying any interest while in school reduces overall debt and puts your student on the path to good repayment habits.
What is the Pell Grant and how do I apply?
The federal Pell Grant is a federal grant, and eligibility is determined by the information you provided on the FAFSA. Pell Grant amounts are based on a sliding scale according to your expected family contribution and the number of credits the student is taking. When you file your FAFSA, you have automatically applied for the Pell Grant. One will be awarded to your student if he or she meets the federal standard. The maximum Pell Grant for the 2017-2018 academic year is $5,920. This maximum EFC, to be eligible for that, your EFC would have to be $5,328 or less to be considered for a Pell Grant.
I may not qualify. Should I file a FAFSA?
Yes, you can't get financial aid if you don't apply. Many families mistakenly think that they make too much money to qualify. Aid is awarded to families with incomes they thought would disqualify them from consideration. Even if you don't qualify for need-based financial aid, direct loans and PLUS loans are available regardless of need. And of course, the FAFSA is free.
Do I have to reapply for need-based financial aid each year?
Yes, to requalify for any federal, state, and institutional funds for which you are eligible, filing a FAFSA each year is required. If your family's financial circumstances change, you may receive more or less aid. Note that your eligibility may change significantly, particularly if a family adds or subtracts siblings in or out of college.
Are parents responsible for their students' loans?
No, but parents are responsible for any federal PLUS loans that they take out to fund their students' education. Parents will only be responsible for a student's private educational loans if they co-sign. In general, the student is solely responsible for repaying his or her educational loans.
Does my student need to be admitted before we can apply for financial aid at a specific college?
Absolutely not. You may apply for need-based financial aid at any time after October 1. To actually receive a financial aid award, however, your student must be admitted. Don't forget, Susquehanna's priority deadline is December 1. We have many families out there submitting their FAFSA right now, and we'd love to receive yours too.
Our family saved for college, so we won't qualify.
That's really not true. A family's EFC is primarily based on income, not assets such as savings. Saving for college is always a good idea, Family savings will help meet the EFC and pay college bills. And as I said earlier, only 6% of that amount of money is actually used towards the calculation.
My student doesn't get straight A's. We won't get aid.
While many scholarships reward academic achievement, some aid is also based upon financial need and does not consider grades.
Having a job in college will negatively affect my students' college grades.
This is another common misconception. We do show from research that students who work a moderate amount, say maybe 10 to 12 hours per week, often achieve higher grades than those who don't work. It's all about time management, which is a skill that will be invaluable once your student enters the workforce. Additionally, future employers will recognize that your student successfully balanced academic success with part-time work, giving him or her yet another competitive advantage when entering the labor market.
Can our family negotiate a better deal?
We are living in an age of deal makers, and every family wonders if they can negotiate a better offer, but there are no guarantees. Many colleges will be sympathetic to a family-specific financial situation, particularly if there are documented non-discretionary expenses such as high medical bills. Most schools will adhere to their institution's established financial aid guidelines and generally do not adjust awards. Most colleges, like Susquehanna, will work hard to build and offer the very best and most appropriate financial aid package. It's usually not the opening point for negotiation.
A private college like Susquehanna is out of my family's financial reach.
I recommend delaying cost considerations until later in the college selection process. What is most important is finding a college that meets your student's academic, career preparation, and personal development needs. Does this college offer the programs he or she wants to pursue? Are the faculty engaging and accessible to your student? Are there extracurricular and co-curricular activities that will help your student develop into a well-rounded individual and citizen? Also, keep in mind that at a higher cost school, you are more likely to demonstrate greater financial need. In fact, many students receive better financial aid packages from private colleges because we have more institutional funds designated for this purpose. As you continue along the financial aid application process, here are some tips I have for working effectively with the financial aid staff, not just here at Susquehanna, but any other college you're considering. It is absolutely perfectly reasonable to contact the financial aid office to discuss the type and amount of assistance offered if it is making your choice difficult or impossible. Please be nice. Our staff members deal with many families and are eager to assist you, but of course, it is human nature to work harder for families who recognize and appreciate the aid already offered. Most questions can be handled via phone without any difficulty. However, if you have a serious problem or family circumstance, a personal visit is the best way to deal with the matter. Just make a call and schedule an appointment, and we'll be happy to see you during any time of the year. When you call or visit to discuss your financial aid award and request additional funds, you should be prepared to come with complete and accurate financial information. If you feel that a college has underestimated your family's financial need or circumstances have changed since you've completed and submitted all the forms, our staff will want to see income statements or expense records. The success of your reevaluation will depend upon whether your situation warrants an increased award and if the college has money to do so. A few final thoughts about the financial aid process at Susquehanna. We are absolutely committed to using our financial aid resources as efficiently and equitably as possible. We have substantial funds available, but still not enough to meet the full demonstrated financial need of all of our admitted students. We allocate our institutional monies to meet the strategic goals that address building an academically talented, diverse group of students. I and my colleagues in admission and student financial services look forward to working with you. There is no greater, no more worthwhile investment for us and for you than investing in the education of your student. Although this education may require some careful planning and possible sacrifice on the part of in the short term, the long-term gain for your student and society are enormous. Thank you for taking time to join our webinar. Be sure to contact us if we can help you and your family navigate the financial aid process.
Along with a summary of any questions submitted. Thanks again, and be sure to contact our Student Financial Services staff at sfs@susquehanna.edu with any additional questions you may have about financial aid at Susquehanna University.